Session chair, my colleagues sitting in front of you, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm really pleased that I've been asked to deliver this brief lecture on a theme which I felt is quite relevant, not just for Sri Lanka, but also for the entire world. How to bring about professional integration across conventional divisions that we have lived with for a long time. As you know, a division between social sciences on one hand and the natural sciences on the other has been a major obstacle to understanding phenomena that cut across these conventional divisions that we have been fighting. The same problem applies to the social sciences when you take the social sciences as a whole. We have been pursuing studies within our own disciplinary boundaries without really trying to look at each other and see how we could understand what we study better if we compare our notes. See how best we could really draw insights from different disciplines in order to understand the phenomena that we deal with. As you all know, we deal with a whole range of phenomena within the realm of social sciences, and I'm not going to bore you with any further description of that. What I want to do in this brief presentation is to provide you with an overview without any cross references, and also without really providing you with data, because data these days can be accessed with ease. If you're going to make a presentation today on any subject, it is possible for you to collect some data from various internet-based sources, and you can certainly make a good presentation based on the data that, say for instance, economic data is available on a number of widely used websites. Similarly, social data on social issues, again, you can easily find it. So there's no need for me to really throw up heaps of statistical data to make a point, because you can also say. Let's see whether I could. Yeah, so the introduction I think is important. As I already mentioned, social sciences deal with diverse aspects of human society and contribute to our understanding of economic, social, political and cultural phenomena. Social science insights derived from conceptual and empirical analysis not only contribute to knowledge, but also help find practical solutions to diverse problems that human societies face. One thing that we have to realize is that we are not the only society that exists on this planet. There are so many societies spread across the globe, and these societies have existed for thousands of years, and they have evolved over time. Now when we look at a certain issue we can look at it from our own angle, what we call the ethnocentric angle. But it's a very limited parochial perspective. That's why comparative analysis is very important. We have comparative education as a discipline, where they look at education systems across the world, and then you have political systems being looked at from a comparative perspective. Similarly, cultures, religion, you name it, the same is true. So the point I'm trying to make here is that it is important that we have a broader understanding of the phenomena that we study. For instance, just give an example. Now, suicide is a phenomenon that occurs everywhere. There is no society where suicide doesn't occur. And it is important for us to understand suicide as a social phenomena in time and space. It is not something confined to one place at a particular time. It is a phenomenon that occurs across societies over time. I'll just give one example. In 1898, the book was published by a French sociologist, Emile Durkheim. The title was Suicide. And he actually tried to develop a theory on suicide. Now what we have realized is that this particular theory is applicable across all societies, across all sectors. So the point is that if a particular theory is valid across all societies, then we can actually analyze that particular phenomenon within that theoretical framework. Anyway, that's just one important point that we have to bear in mind. Now, my presentation, I don't think that I will have time because I think we have given, 20 minutes or so to make our presentation, but I'll try my best to cover as much as I could within this very short period of time. Now, it is important for us to realize that we are faced with a whole range of challenges today. Of course, it depends on how you look at these challenges, but you can look at the major challenges. Everybody is talking about inequality. The world has become more unequal over time. Over the last 30 to 40 years, the world has become more unequal. In spite of economic growth, in spite of various other developments, now that's a major challenge. How to deal with that? Second issue is climate change. Climate change is a major challenge. We cannot ignore that. Then we have another major challenge, that is conflict. Conflict arising from diverse circumstances, but nevertheless conflict. How to create societies which are contented and peaceful. This is a major challenge. So like that we have so many challenges. Now when you are faced with challenges, you want to try and overcome those challenges because you don't want to, you cannot ignore. You have to somehow face it. Now how can the social sciences contribute to our understanding of these challenges and finding ways to deal with them? Now, we know that the social sciences have made a contribution in a significant way to address diverse issues in different parts of the world. How do we do that? What is the mechanism? It is through public policy, because we are all living in societies where you have a you have a political arrangement called the state. Where there is a state, it is possible to operate within that framework and come up with, policies that would address various issues. Leave out the big challenges, but at least, the various issues. Now, the social sciences actually can make a distinct contribution. And that is the experience that many modern societies have got. Many modern societies have used public policy to deal with certain issues. Now, for instance, I mentioned inequality. Inequality can be dehumanizing. Inequality can be dehumanizing. And it can lead to conflict. It can lead to various other problems. Therefore, you have to try and address that issue. I'll come to this later on when I talk about social policy. But nevertheless, it is important to recognize that this particular issue has been addressed in many societies through social and other policies. So it's basically the same point that I am making here. We have to make an effort to integrate diverse social science insights in order to address various issues, in particular this fundamental issue, human security. Because human security is something that is so critical for the well-being of people. If there is no security, it adversely affects the well-being of people. At times, it threatens the very survival of people. So therefore, this has to be survived. I'm not going to read out the rest, but I'll just move on. Now, I just mentioned contemporary challenges. One major point that I want to make here is that the social sciences had a tradition of operating within what we call the framework of methodological nationalism. Methodological nationalism. In other words, you could study a phenomenon within a nation-state framework, in a nation-state framework. But whereas today societies are not isolated. I'm not suggesting that societies have ever been isolated, but the point is it is a matter of degree. Certainly today societies interact with each other far more intense than they did 100 years ago. Globalization has brought societies closer together. I don't have to again explain. You know economic globalization, and then you know what has happened in the information and communication technology area. So the point is that societies are interacting. And the other thing is that the people are not contained within these frameworks anymore. People move. Now if you take the case of Sri Lanka, nearly 25% of the labor force in this country is not employed here. They have not left the country for good, but they are part of Sri Lankan society, but they are working somewhere else. They are working somewhere else. Now this has actually had a huge impact on Sri Lankan society. Similarly, culture. People are exposed to cultural flows. Culture is flowing across boundaries. I don't have to again explain, these are well-known things. And then you have business cutting across national boundaries. And everybody is talking about the financial system, global financial system has made money to flow across these divisions almost instantly. So the point is that you cannot study a lot of the things that we have been studying in the social sciences today within that particular methodological framework that we got accustomed to. I come from an anthropological tradition, at least to start with, and we have this tradition of doing village studies. In fact, my first research, my PhD research was an ethnographic study of a village. This was done a long time back. Most of you probably were not even born. So the point that I'm trying to make is that this methodological tradition is useful only to a very limited extent today. Therefore, we have been forced to transcend these boundaries. And I think this is true not only in physical terms but also in terms of conceptual terms. So today we are talking a great deal about the need to do interdisciplinary research. Now, I already mentioned social sciences and social reforms, because social reforms can be facilitated by a whole range of factors. Social movements have facilitated or brought about social change. Again, I don't have to go into detail, but social movements. Marxism gave rise to Marxist movements, socialist movements, workers' movements, and you know the impact of that on societies. And some revolutions took place in some societies mainly because of that. And then you have the feminist movement. You don't have to again explain. Now you have the environmental movement, which is really impacting on societies. So the point is social movement. But social movements are spontaneous movements arising out of societies into various circumstances. But I am here focusing not on that. I am focusing on deliberate action on the part of states to bring about change based on a certain understanding of a particular situation. Now in Sri Lanka, we have done a great deal in this area. The introduction of various policies over time have transformed Sri Lankan society. So in other words, it is a fact, it is not an argument, it's not an argument, it's a fact. Because Sri Lankan society has changed largely because we introduced certain policies, for the better or for the worse. Now we have a language specialist here, my colleague, my friend, Rajiv, and he knows how difficult it is for him to teach English. I remember we were working together, and when he wanted to introduce English medium, in Colombo we have not been able to do it even now. There's so much resistance, and we cannot introduce. We are a country which is accustomed to 3 languages. But how we have not been able to manage this problem even today. I have written about it, I am not going to talk about it anymore. Now, social investments to create just and equitable societies. If we were to learn from successful cases across the world, social investments can change societies very rapidly. I have no time to go into detail, but I have a lot of data that I have collected from various sources, and you can see how you could, link these data sets and see how things are interconnected. For instance, we have societies where the taxation, the rate of taxation is very high. The highest in the world used to be Sweden, but now it is France. But the rate of maximum taxation rate in France is 62%. If you have the highest income bracket, you pay 62% of your income. But in Sri Lanka we have brought it down to 15%. Now the point is that when you have a very high rate of taxation, what does it mean? It means you bring down inequality. Sri Lanka is one of the countries where we had a very good Gini coefficient. Gini coefficient in Sri Lanka was very good, something like 37. Now it has gone up to 47 or something like that, which is very high. Now you can bring down inequality by having a progressive taxation policy. Anyway, I have no time to go into these things, but I am just making a point. So when you have a higher rate of taxation, you have a higher amount of money. That is the share of the GDP controlled by the state. Sri Lanka, it's about 21%. Some countries, over 55% of the GDP is controlled by the state. Not by taking over businesses and that kind of stuff. It's a very liberal environment, like a great country like Sweden. But the point is that they have a culture where they assume that if you don't pay taxes, you will not be able to solve social issues in society. So you want to take care of children, you want to take care of the elderly, you want to take care of the disabled, you want to take care of the poor, you want to take care of the youth, you want to take care of the unemployed. All this can be done only if you have a very high rate of taxation. So it serves many purposes. But anyway, the point that I am trying to make here is that these are all policy measures, and if you get the right mixture of those policy measures, you can really bring about the change that you want. Now, human security is something that is far wider in scope than security in a very simple sense. I'm again not going to really go too much into it. I might have about 5 more minutes. What is my time going?
Huh?
5 more minutes. I know, because I think I have taken too much. But you see now, human security. Now, it can, human security, captures a wide range of things. It can range from, let's say, safety on our roads. That's also security. If you feel safe on your road, you are quite comfortable. You can send your children, out without worrying about it. Security can be as simple as that. But then there are, far more things like far more complex things like threats, various threats that you might have to. So in other words, protection from vulnerabilities like abuse, discrimination, and neglect. These also security. You feel secure in your workplace if you know that there is no discrimination, there is no harassment, there is no violence, and so on and so forth. Now, human security, as touches on so many areas like economic security, health, personal security, political, being free, being able to engage in political activities, legitimate political activities. Should not feel threatened. Then food security, environmental security. Your place is not going to get flooded, or the building that you have an apartment is not going to collapse. These are all part of security. And then community security. How safe is your neighborhood? How safe is your community? In a country. If your community is targeted, by certain groups, your community is not safe, and so when we talk about human security, it touches on a whole range of things. So much so that today we talk about security in a generic sense, which includes both traditional forms of security and also non-traditional forms of security. I think all of you might have already been exposed to these things. Non-traditional security. So challenges to survival and well-being arising from non-military sources. That's non-traditional security, like climate change, resource scarcity, disease, disasters, irregular migration, food shortages, drugs, and so forth. Now given this situation, if you take human security in its broader sense into consideration, you have to do much more than providing physical security. Guns alone won't help. Guns alone won't help. I think that's the point. The question is how to provide human security through various social and economic interventions. So now here we have a term called social planning. In other words, you can do planning at a national level and then use social investment to facilitate that process. Come up with policies and implement those policies. Because policies have to be implemented, and to implement policies, you have to spend money, and that is what we call social spending. It's not private spending, it is public spending or social investment. Now, we can learn a lot from the welfare state approach, and as you know, there are many countries where there are mature welfare states. Now, if you compare the conditions prevailing in a typical welfare state and a country where there is no welfare state arrangements, you will see a huge difference in terms of inequality, vulnerability, discrimination, corruption, and so on and so forth. In other words, it is possible to create a contented, peaceful society through certain social planning interventions backed up by adequate social spending. So even the prevention of violence, crime and conflict, which is really the area that security studies people cover, how to prevent violence, how to prevent crime, how to prevent conflict. Of course, you can deal with these things when they happen. But in medicine, they say that prevention is better than cure, and that is also probably our common sense experience, our experience also. So in other words, if you can prevent disease, is much better, because a person who has undergone surgery is not the same as who has not undergone surgery. Because a person, I don't have to explain these things. So the point is, prevention is better than cure. So in other words, social planning is a preventive measure. Of course, you can ameliorate a situation that has already cropped up, but it is more a matter of prevention than, for instance, in Sri Lanka, we have gone through several stages of violence. And we have realized that there have been certain underlying causes. Now, it's better to address those underlying causes and prevent the recurrence of those conflicts again, rather than to get ourselves ready to face any situation at any cost. I think that's the point. So the defense expenditure and social expenditure, this is an important area. We can again I can give you some data, and as you know, in Asia, our neighbors, Pakistan and India, they have some of the highest levels of defense expenditure. Pakistan 18.5% of the GDP, but rather the 18%, 5% of the national budget. In India it's 15%, and Sri Lanka is 13.8%. And then when you look at as percentage of GDP, these are some of the highest countries, like Pakistan has the highest, 3.6% of the GDP goes for. And we know why in Pakistan this is so. But when you look at very peaceful countries, it is less than 1%. Switzerland is 0.7%. 0.7% of the GDP goes for defense. Because Switzerland is a very special country, specific place. But when you look at some of the welfare states, the defense expenditure is very low. It is less than 2% in most of these countries. Like Sweden 1.1%, then Canada is 1%, France is 2.1%, and so on and so forth. So the point that I'm trying to make is that we have to establish a balance between these two, and social expenditure is so critical to address a lot of the problems that we are faced with, even under conditions of peace. Peace does not necessarily guarantee a contented society. Peace does not necessarily guarantee equity. Peace does not necessarily guarantee justice, and so on and so forth. So the point is that peace is important, but peace alone is not enough, and therefore it is important that we take measures. Okay, I think global experience is quite clear. Social spending in education, health, public transport, social protection, and so on and so forth. Highest rate of suicide in Sri Lanka today is among the elderly people. I'm not going to discuss this in great detail, but the point that I want to make here is that lack of social protection is a major factor contributing. In fact, a majority of the people in Sri Lanka do not have pensions. Sri Lanka is better than other South Asian countries in terms of social protection, but even Sri Lanka, it is a small minority of people having social security, like old age. The point is that they become very vulnerable. There are many other factors, so I think it is important that we recognize the importance of some of these. Why we have the highest rate of suicide. Now, we started in mid-1990s with the highest rate of suicide among young people. Now it has come down, and we know there have been many safety valves afterwards. Because the young people nowadays don't look around, because if they can't find something, they just leave the country. As simple as that. But the point is that it is not going to give you a kind of a sustainable solution, but nevertheless, it is a safety valve. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that people become vulnerable, and then of course, in desperation, they might even commit suicide. So this is the point. But then you have so many other issues connected with lack of social security. So we can look at how we could strengthen social spending and see how we could rationalize social expenditure and see how best we could create peaceful, secure, and contented society in Sri Lanka. I think that's the end. I hope we finished it in 1 minute earlier than I was informed. As I already mentioned, I didn't want to bore you with a lot of data. I didn't want to bore you with all kinds of theories. I wanted to give you a perspective which I hope is useful for you in your discussions and debates and maybe even research on security solutions, in particular social security, rather human security in a broader sense.